Hi there, my name is Colin Dunn. I'm Whisky Ambassador for Diageo, and I have a great pleasure and a great privilege to be here in Soho today to talk to you about the 2019 Diageo special releases. Once a year, Diageo choose individual casks that they believe have something special, and only certain whiskies are chosen. It doesn't really matter about the name of the distillery. What matters is about the taste of the whiskey that's slightly different, I won't say better, but different, and gives value added to that particular brand. So we thought long and hard about what we should call these releases, and in the end, after 12 meetings, we decided to call them the special releases. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to what I consider to be one worthy of going first, and it's a whiskey that comes from a distillery in Speyside in northeast Scotland, and the distillery is called Cragganmore. Some people may be familiar with Cragganmore with its core range expression, which is the 12-year-old aged in refill and first fill bourbon barrels, and gives an exquisite, mellow, fragrant taste. Some of you may also know about the distiller's edition expression, one of my favorites, which has had 12 years in American casks and then given the port treatment. Yes, 3 or 4 months extra aged in port casks, which changes the texture of Cragganmore and adds a softer, savoury note to it. Enough of those. What matters is, this year, Cragganmore was included in the special releases 2019. And the backstory of this is absolutely fantastic. Go back to 2006 in Scotland, particularly on the west coast, Skye, there's a shortage of water, which means the distilleries can't do the mashing to start the process of making whiskey. Nobody knew how long the drought was going to last, so from an experimental perspective, Diageo decided they needed to make a whiskey similar to Talisker, peating levels and taste, in case we could not make whiskey for those months when the drought was in. So for around about 3 to 4 months, on Speyside, Cragganmore made a Talisker-esque expression, just for 3 to 4 months. Finally, here we are now in 2019. Here is the experiment. 12 years old, the peating levels has increased. Normally in Cragganmore, the peating level is 0.3. Here, it's up to between 8 and 10%. Not quite up to Talisker's level, but to get an expression from Cragganmore, for me, showing this different complexity is fantastic. And just before we get to taste it, can I just add, of all the distilleries we have at Diageo, obviously a lot of it is going into, a lot of the whiskey is going into blends. Cragganmore distillery is the most asked whiskey by other blending companies to put into their blends. So I'm really pleased that aside from the 12-year-old, the excellent portwood finish in the distiller's edition range now has this wonderful, only for 3 months, producing a smoky Speyside whiskey, fragrant, hints of sandalwood and some smoke. That's because I have tasted it, but I think we're going to taste it again. Are we good with that? Yeah. So when I first tasted whiskey, I wanted to know the best way to appreciate it, so keeping it really short. Ultimately, it's about a beginning and a middle and an end. A bit like making whiskey. There's the foreshots, the middle cut and the feints. So for me, the nose, the mouthfeel, the finish is all important. So with Cragganmore, aside from the colour, which looks like a unoaked white wine from my perspective, let's get our nose into it. And when I get my nose into Cragganmore, the first word that comes to mind is 9 letters beginning with F. Fragrance. This is the kind of whiskey that if I ran out of air freshener at home, I would move to the essence of Cragganmore. Delicate, refined, not in your face, lemon citrus, and just a very, very subtle hint of smoke. When we're looking at Cragganmore also, you have to take into mind that these whiskies in the special releases are all at cask strength, and this is in the higher 50s. So I recommend, when you're trying a whiskey of this caliber, A, try it neat to find out if your palate is acceptable, or have a little water jug handy near you and just add a few drops to take down the burn, but to accentuate the aroma. So I'm joined today by Henry, who's the features editor for Master of Malt. And Henry, I'd just like to say, slanger. Here's to a citric, lemon, almost like sandalwood nose, a little bit of a burn, a little bit of a prickle from the alcohol, but the proof will be in the tasting. Thank you for bearing with me for a few seconds. I can sum this wonderful expression from Cragganmore quite simply. Zingy, minerally, fresh, bursting with citric fruits, and then right on the back palate there's a wave coming in, and that wave is called smoke. Cragganmore, 12-year-old, special release, added time with peated flavors coming through. This truly deserves its place in the special releases this year, of which there are 8, 4 from Speyside, 2 from the Highlands, 1 from Islay and 1 from Skye. Cragganmore, this first expression, this Speyside expression, shows a wonderful shade of Spey that I think you're going to love.